So why was Kyrie Irving left off the NBA 75th anniversary team? Is he not one of the 75 greatest players in the history of the game? Or does it have to do with how he's perceived off the court? Is there just simply more Irving has to accomplish in order to achieve proverbial GOAT status? Join us to examine this further on episode 1 of GOAT Decoded.
Welcome to GOAT Decoded. GOAT Decoded is a content series dedicated to exploring the science of greatness through the lens of some of the most iconic figures across various disciplines. The term GOAT, aka greatest of all time, has been etched so much into our cultural consciousness that the discourse surrounding the subject is pretty much inescapable. This GOAT, of course, needs no introduction. He is an NBA champion, 8-time All-Star, Olympic gold medalist, referred to by many as the most skilled player of all time, an absolute magician with the ball in his hands, and the brother has hit one of the biggest shots in NBA history. The man I speak of is none other than Uncle Drew himself, Kyrie Irving. Now, some may ask, why Kyrie? Sure, it's undeniable he puts on one of the best shows in sports, if not the best. But certainly there are other names that precede him in the pantheon of hoops. And though there may be some truth to that, it is evident that there is so much more to Irving than meets the eye. Often deemed a polarizing figure, Kyrie's stellar play on the court has been often overshadowed by what transpires outside of the lines. Irving can be opinionated, outspoken, and at times controversial. But whether you agree or disagree with him, Kyrie seems to see the world as we all should, through his own unique perspective. And one cannot argue that the complexities of the man make him an even more compelling case to explore as it pertains to greatness. But before we get started, we have established an original criteria that features the 10 components of the greatness formula. Those components are comprised of ability, ambition, intelligence, creativity, resilience, integrity, humility, empathy, longevity, and impact. These 10 attributes will be evaluated on a scale of 1 to 10 to combine for an aggregate score of 100 at the conclusion of each case study.
Let's start our evaluation with ability.
Ability equals talent heightened by the circumstances that breed said talent, multiplied by persistence and effort to transform it into an ability. To most, this evaluation isn't surprising when speaking of one of, if not the greatest ball handler to ever touch the court. In terms of his ability, Kyrie Irving is in a class of his own. His rhythmic approach to ball handling and scoring is a sight to behold. It would be a disservice to not score his abilities high. Although his talent is undeniable, his unique approach to training the fundamentals against live defensive situations while working on mastering his ambidextrousness has been crucial to his success in the NBA. The greatest players of any sport understand the importance of extracting skills and knowledge from the ones before them. This is no different with Kyrie. As he matured into his game, Kai sought out and absorbed the wisdom of NBA greats such as Jamal Crawford, LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and arguably one of the top 3 NBA players of all time, the late great Kobe Bryant. NBA vet and 3-time Sixth Man of the Year award winner Jamal Crawford shared Kyrie's willingness to seek out guidance in order to maximize his game. Crawford says, "He came and stayed with me in Seattle his last year in Boston, and we worked out every day for a month straight. But I was surprised to hear from him. A typical day is we would meet at different gyms, University of Washington or Seattle Pacific, whatever. If there was ever footage of me and him going at it, oh my God, it was crazy. At the end of it, I think he won 6 and I had 6. It isn't just talk though. An incredible demonstration of Kyrie's skill set recently occurred during a matchup between the Dallas Mavericks and the Denver Nuggets back in March of 2024. While moving parallel to the basket, Kai shoots an unbelievable lefty hook over the outstretched hands of 2022 MVP Nikola Jokic, which was an extremely difficult and outrageous shot to make in any live game situation. And though it may appear that Irving is just naturally gifted, it is clear that these skills weren't developed overnight. A story once shared by Irving epitomizes how his childhood circumstances helped him craft his skill set within his own backyard. Kyrie states his hoop unfortunately had holes in the backboard, which are horrendous circumstances for just about any hooper.
Let me explain to you that he grew up playing on a rim that was missing pieces on the backboard. So that's how he learned those weird angles to twist the ball off of, because his backboard
was missing pieces.
That's crazy.
However, he used this obstacle to hone his talent instead of allowing it to hinder it, mastering how to attack the rim by practicing finishes on different angles off the glass. Honestly, the way Uncle Drew controls the rock should be studied as an art form. The simultaneous movement of his hands and feet make him an absolute menace to guard. For every defensive reaction, there's an offensive counter tucked away in his immensely deep bag of tricks.
For ability, Kyrie receives a 9.
Moving on to ambition. Ambition requires a sum of vision and focus, compounded with a sum of sacrifice and tenacity. Since his youth, Kyrie had a desire to make it to the NBA, being that his father, Drederick Irving, did not. His dream began to ignite even more when young Kyrie and his 4th grade youth team had the opportunity to play on the then New Jersey Nets court during a school trip. After what he called the best day of his life, Irving wrote on a piece of paper, "I will play in the NBA. I promise." It is no secret that his promise that day was matched by his determination, eventually taking him from playing a single season of college basketball to being drafted by the Cleveland Cavaliers in the 2011 NBA draft as the 1st overall pick. And in a mere 5 years, Irving would go on to accomplish another significant goal off his personal checklist, securing an NBA championship, an achievement that remains elusive for nearly 20% of players in the league. This is a huge example of tenacity shown by Kai, as a year prior, he unfortunately missed out on his very first NBA Finals due to a knee injury. Nevertheless, he returned to the league with a vengeance and persistence that led him to etching his name in the NBA history books. Furthermore, Kyrie was able to create an impact beyond just basketball, having founded charitable organization K.A.I. Kai Family Foundation, a foundation dedicated to constructing self-sustaining communities and offering resources to those in need. We certainly can all take a page out of Uncle Drew's book when it comes to transforming your dreams into a reality, for one, but also when one combines discipline and immense effort, what can be achieved is unimaginable. A powerful quote courtesy of Irving that embodies his ambitions goes as follows.
Greatness is not meant for a few chosen people. It's meant for those who persistently pursue their dreams every day and make that choice when they wake up.
Kyrie Irving earns a perfect score for not only having vast belief in himself, but by concretizing his ambitions.
For ambition, Kyrie receives a 10.
Next is intelligence. The intelligence formula is a sum of the ability to think, to learn experientially, to solve problems, and to adapt to new circumstances. Intelligence as it pertains to athletes can be analyzed from 2 different lenses: the intelligence that they demonstrate while playing, and the intelligence they display off the court or field. Kyrie's intelligence on the court is undeniable, especially on the offensive end. His ability to make reads and not only think, but react on the fly is second to none. His degree of focus when attacking the basket allows him to be one of the greatest finishers at the guard position. Kai also has a keen understanding of the nuances of the game, when it's time to go get his, and also when it's time to get his teammates involved. Throughout his career, Kyrie has also had to learn how to adapt to a myriad of new circumstances, and for the most part, has adapted well. He's been a fit alongside a number of GOAT candidates, including, but not limited to, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, and Luka Doncic. Through his experience, Irving has had to develop more of an off-the-ball game, excelling in dribble handoffs and spot-up shooting. Bottom line is you could drop Kai on any court in the multiverse and he'll get a bucket. And that is in large part due to his intelligence. Moving on to the off-the-court side of the equation, based on what he has shown us, Kai does exhibit intelligence.
Prodigal son, chosen one has left, and here we have this 19-year-old kid. I'm 6'2", I'm not jumping out of the gym. Emotionally, I was dealing with things that...
He's deeply analytical of himself and what is transpiring in the world, while simultaneously articulating himself eloquently. Evidence of this can be found in his post-game press conferences, interviews on various media platforms, and even on his Twitch streams. And yes, sometimes his intelligence is questioned, especially as it relates to the whole flat earth theory diatribe.
When I started actually doing research on my own and figuring out that there is no real picture of Earth, like there's not one picture of Earth, and we haven't been back to the moon since 1961 or 1969, and then it becomes like conspiracy theory.
And there are those who tend to label him as a pseudo-intellectual because of his tendency to talk in circles. Granted, there may be some validity to some of these questions, but by the way in which the formula was designed by yours truly, the guy's intelligent.
So for intelligence, Kyrie receives a 9.
After intelligence is creativity. Heralded mathematician Ruth Noller indicated that creativity is generated by the interaction between knowledge, imagination, and evaluation. One of the greatest minds to ever live, Albert Einstein, once said, "Creativity is intelligence having fun." These words could not be more fitting for the likes of Kyrie Irving. Former NBA pro and godfather to Kyrie, Rod Strickland, beautifully spoke on what impresses him the most about Kai's game and his influence on his godson's development.
You look at Kyrie, I think a lot of that is imagination. You got to have a certain imagination. If you listen to him talk, like that's different. It's another little level. I always like tell young people that, like, you got to watch things and then you got to, those are the best players, you know? But his skill set, I mean, I don't know if we've ever, I have to go to Isaiah Thomas, but have we ever seen someone that can handle the ball like that? And then, like, I was a ball handler off of instincts. So I come at you real hard and then I can react. But he's playing with you and then reacting. You know what I mean? Like, that's different. So it's kind of street ball, and he's not just doing that. And if you listen to him talk, his mind is just different. Is crazy. And his mind is just different. His imagination, his thought process is different. He was born and embedded with that, the pops and, like, he was there. No, that's all Kyrie.
So, well, maybe I'm saying that because he got so much of you in his game, and you being his godfather, it's hard not to see.
Well, you see it. You can't. I mean, there's inspirations. Like I talk about Taney and all that. Like, you get a chance to see, to be able to know someone who's done what you're trying to do. And there's video, you know what I mean? So, like, there's that. I think people forget about that part of it. Right. You don't actually have to be there, right, to inspire or to help somebody.
Former teammate and fan-favorite NBA pro interviewee, Iman Shumpert, also had high praises for Kyrie's creativity.
He's one of the only players that will play against you with no plan. Playing one-on-one with Kyrie, I realized you really don't care how you score it. You don't care. Like, he'll pick a spot here and there if you just sag off him for long enough. But Kyrie's one of the only people, he'll let you play. He'd rather play defense on offense. He's defending the ball and keeping the ball away from you. You dictate how this is gonna go.
Kyrie Irving plays defense on offense. He starts his point of attack, then allows his opponent to dictate his next move. Surprisingly, Kai possesses creative talents beyond basketball, which is put on full display in 2018 anti-ageist comedy, Uncle Drew. Guy has some acting chops. And although Uncle Drew was Kyrie's most major role, he's also dabbled in voice acting, sharing his voice in the beloved adult cartoon series, Family Guy. And even aside from his thespian-like abilities, Kai has also showcased his vocal talents on the song Ridiculous off the Uncle Drew soundtrack. And although it's not the most popular song, it does further encompass Irving's creative power outside of the realm of basketball. And to sum it all up, in the words of Walter Payton, when you're good at something, you'll tell everyone. When you're great at something, they'll tell you. And if you don't agree, ask any of the many NBA pros who had to guard this man. And pull up the IMDb while you're at it.
So for creativity, Kyrie receives a 10.
Next up to bat is resilience. Resilience equals determination magnified by toughness, divided by the pain an individual is willing to endure. I think it goes without saying that it is incredibly difficult to even imagine navigating life without a mother. Kyrie and his family unfortunately had to bear this burden when he was the tender age of 4 years old. His mother, Elizabeth Irving, sudden passing from sepsis syndrome left widowed husband Dredrick Irving with the challenging task of caring for his 2 children, Asia and Kyrie. Truthfully, many never recover from the painful heartache that such tragedy can induce. Kyrie, however, was able to persevere, often crediting his father for the active role he played in his life by not only supporting his hoop dreams, but helping cultivate his competitive spirit. Dredrick was a hooper himself, who had a stellar career at Boston University before he went on to play professionally in Australia, where Kyrie was born. And though Kyrie openly yearns for his mother's presence to this day, he has exemplified resilience in such a powerful way by accomplishing much in his 32 years on the planet. But not only did Kyrie have to persevere much in his early life, his amateur career was anything but obstacle-free. After an impressive high school showing, the McDonald's All-American co-MVP became a coveted recruit, eventually committing to the often vilified but esteemed Duke program under the revered Coach K. There was plenty of excitement around this pairing, and understandably so. You had one of the most decorated college coaches in the history of the association and an electric young talent with immense potential. But that was unluckily cut short due to an unfortunate toe injury. Kyrie only managed to play 11 games during his time at Duke, missing 26 altogether. Though that did not stop him from showcasing his unbelievable ability and leading the Blue Devils to an Elite Eight appearance in the NCAA tourney. Kyrie's confidence in his own ability never seems to waver despite adverse circumstances, declaring for the 2011 NBA draft shortly after the conclusion of the college season. Moving on to his professional career, it would not be inaccurate to state that Kai continued to face his fair share of adversity. For one, he's had to bounce back from plenty of injuries throughout his career, the most impactful resulting in him missing what would have been his first NBA Finals appearance in 2015 versus the Golden State Warriors. But this became mere exposition for a redemption tale for the ages the following year. The moxie that Kyrie also seemed to walk with continued to propel him through the difficult times. After going down 3-1 in the NBA Finals with the contributions of a LeBron James, Irving and the Cavs were able to make a historically inconceivable comeback to defeat the rival Warriors. This, of course, allowed Kyrie to finally reach the mountaintop and claim his first NBA championship. Now, that alone demands a high grade in the resilience category, but what earns Mr. Irving a perfect score is what he's been able to endure off the court. Kyrie has practically grown up in the public eye majority of his life, so many have gotten an opportunity to witness his perspective that has evolved drastically as it pertains to societal issues. For much of it, he has received intense media scrutiny that altered the public perception of him. One instance in particular happened just last year, as Irving was faced with a multi-game suspension that included extensive conditions due to the posting of a film that some deemed anti-Semitic. The year before that, he was heavily criticized for his decision to remain unvaccinated, which resulted in him being absent for more than half of the NBA season. Now, despite how one might feel about his ideologies, many agreed that the degree of media crucifixion that occurred as a result was very much unwarranted. But with that being said, Irving has taken the public ire in stride by continuing to be unafraid to take risks and expressing the courage to stand in what he believes in. An added bonus is the fact that the controversy has done little to affect his performance on the court, as he remains one of the best basketball players on the planet.
So for resilience, Kyrie receives a 10.
After resilience comes integrity. Integrity equals the sum of honesty and kind intention multiplied by a combination of responsibility and courage. It is interesting because even in the midst of public dissatisfaction, it would be difficult to argue that Kyrie's intentions were not of goodness. And though he may have had moments when he appeared condescending, it was his honest disposition at that particular moment in time. His infamous appearance on First Take in 2017 exemplifies this. Host Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith felt as though Irving needed to explain why he decided to ask for a trade after winning an NBA championship with LeBron James and the Cavs.
It comes a time where you mature as an individual. It's time to make that decision, and there is no looking back from that standpoint. There is no time to figure out how to save someone's feelings when ultimately you have to be selfish in that and figuring out what you want to do. And it wasn't about me not wanting to win. It wasn't anything about that. It was like, I want to be extremely, extremely happy, like, in perfecting my craft. And that was the only intent that I have in all of this. And I think that it got much more attention because everything else started coming out from who would think that their important opinion mattered most. Right. And I saw previous players, I saw past players, I saw current players speaking on something that had absolutely nothing to do with them.
Granted, that was young Kyrie. And as most people do in life, he has matured and evolved significantly. The integrity now is applicable on a much larger scale. The aforementioned stand for one's right to accept or deny the COVID-19 vaccination was one. But he's also stood against other injustices throughout his spiritual evolution. As an individual that has practiced Islam, Irving recently displayed solidarity with the Palestinian people impacted by the conflict in Gaza by donning a keffiyeh, a garment that symbolizes the struggle in Palestine. And again, whether or not you agree, it takes integrity, most importantly courage, to stand for what you believe in the face of staunch opposition. Lastly, Irving's relationship with Nike is also a compelling case study as it pertains to integrity. Nike wasted no time parting ways with him over the posting of the film that some deemed anti-Semitic, claiming he stepped over the line. In response, Kyrie stated, "Anyone who has ever spent their hard-earned money on anything I have ever released, I consider you family, and we are forever connected. And it's time to show how powerful we are as a community." Since then, Uncle Drew has now moved on to a partnership with Chinese goods company Anta, where he recently debuted his Anta Kai 1s, a sneaker whose design pays homage to his Native American roots as well as his artistry on the court. Kai is easily a 9 out of 10 when it comes to integrity.
So for integrity, Kyrie receives a 9.
Moving forward to humility. Humility is the sum of 4 parts: accurate self-awareness, appreciation of others, openness to feedback, and transcendence in perspective. Should athletes be held to a different standard as it pertains to the term humility? Granted, athletes are required to possess this unwavering confidence to overcome all obstacles that may present themselves on the path to greatness. But when the confidence is marred by the need for external validation, arrogance rears its head. Now, I'm not necessarily accusing Kyrie of being arrogant. I can understand the challenges of transitioning from boy to man while simultaneously assuming the role of a public figure. And he has definitely demonstrated a great deal of growth as it relates to humility over time. But there were moments where he wasn't really the most self-aware. His handling of his relationship with LeBron James is a prime example. As previously mentioned, Kai and Bron won a championship in 2016. As a duo, their chemistry was undeniable. Practically the NBA's Batman and Robin. Bron was a do-it-all forward with a pass-first tendency, and Kai was an elite shot maker with a killer instinct. But at the time, LeBron James was still widely recognized as the best player and leader of the team, standing in the way of Kyrie's ascension to that position. With that in mind, a young Kyrie yearned for the validation of leading a team on his own and forced his way out of Cleveland to join the Boston Celtics. And let's just say his time in Boston was quite humbling. So much so that he apologized and expressed his gratitude to LeBron in the following statement.
I had to call Bron, and tell him, I apologize for being that young player that wanted to everything at his fingertips, and I wanted everything to be at, my threshold. I wanted to be the guy that led us to the championship. I wanted to be the leader. I wanted to be all that, and, the responsibility of being the best player in the world and leading a team.
And Kyrie's self-awareness increased dramatically after he began to understand how demanding the role of leader could be. And as a result, his appreciation of LeBron also increased, as did their relationship, maturing into a brotherly bond that still remains intact to this day. Outside of the Bron-Kai discourse, Kyrie does often display his appreciation for his peers and those who have preceded him in the pantheon of greats. He has expressed his admiration publicly for the likes of Russell Westbrook, Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant, and his idol mentor, the late Kobe Bryant. All in all, Kyrie's humility has evolved just like many humans, and is still actively evolving as we speak.
So for humility, Kyrie will receive an 8.
So after humility comes empathy. Empathy can be broken down into 3 components: emotional empathy, cognitive empathy, and compassionate empathy. Over the years, Kai has evolved a great deal, as young men typically do, and with his evolution, his empathy has increased so much so that he's deserving of a 10. Emotional empathy is defined as the sharing of an emotional experience with another, putting oneself in the shoes of others. Kyrie understands that he has been fortunate enough to earn a living that allows him to enjoy what plenty in need may lack. The man not only brings awareness to humanitarian issues, but often puts his money where his mouth is. Kai does not yearn to publicize his good deeds. He does not seem to be concerned with the self-serving validation. Examples of this include, but are not limited to: 1, the $40,000 he selflessly donated to a 93-year-old woman who was being sued to give up her family home. 2, the $25,000 relief he provided to rebuild homes in the Gaza Strip in light of what's transpiring over there. 3, the building of an orphanage in Ghana. And 4, over $300,000 donated to various GoFundMe projects. Irving's empathy seems to be boundless, never limited by color, class, or creed. He also appears to be an incredibly conscious and deep thinker. A vast majority of Kai's brand is spiritually inclined, where he attempts to not only relate to others on an emotional level, but on a cognitive level as well. In a recent appearance on the Draymond Green Show, Mavericks owner Mark Cuban could not help but praise Irving in his heart. Cuban says this about Kyrie.
Kai and I will talk like after Hamas attacked Israel, right? And we're talking and we're like, what do you think, Kai? And he's like, look, terrorist is wrong, right? But how can you not feel for the not only the people that got slaughtered in Israel, but what's going to happen to the Gazans, right? And what's going to happen? He's not like taking sides, and he's certainly against terrorism, and he's like, clear, I'm against terrorism, but he wants to feel how other people feel. He respects that pain, and it's not just, the Middle East, it's Australia, it's Sudan, it's, American Indians in this country, it's Lakota tribe. Like, I'm sending him links to documentaries on the Lakota tribe, right? He wants to learn and he wants to care about those things. And how many people do you know like that?
This is a clear indication of Kyrie's cognitive empathy. His desire to learn about how others are feeling and what they might be experiencing is admirable. Kyrie Irving also seems to be an incredibly compassionate person. A former teammate, Quinn Cook, shared an anecdote about how Kai provided him with a car and a place to stay during his rookie season. For many players, making the leap from college to the pros is a challenging transition. It says a lot when someone is compassionate enough to mentor and provide others help along the way. With that being said, it's clear that Kyrie has a good heart, and his actions and behaviors are demonstrative of it.
So for empathy, Kyrie receives a 10.
Next up, longevity. The formula for longevity is output multiplied by time. As Kyrie progresses in his career, the topic of longevity becomes increasingly relevant, especially considering him being closer to the end of his NBA career rather than the start. Although the topic of Kyrie's longevity is a split conversation, you can't take away 13 years of experience within the league, but it's also understandable that some may argue a more available player is better than an occasional one. But let's start with the positives. When rating any player's longevity in the sport, you account for how consistently efficient a player has been throughout their career, which is one of the many great aspects that contributes to Kai's longevity. There is no debate when it comes to how efficient that boy is. With a career average of 23 points per game, 4 rebounds, and 6 assists, he sits among elite caliber players. Also contributing to the fact that Irving normally plays the number 2 spot on any team that he's on, showcasing his willingness to put aside his ego and work alongside his team to win. One can argue that Kyrie Irving is one, if not the greatest sidekick we've witnessed in the modern era of the NBA. But unfortunately, the main detriment to Uncle Drew's longevity is his injury proneness and availability. Since the start of his NBA career and going on to his 13th season, the average number of games Kyrie has missed due to injury is 25 plus a year. Excluding the current 2023 to 2024 NBA season, for the past 5 years, Irving has missed over 40% of his games. The availability of a player such as Irving immensely changes the winning outcome of any game, which inherently affects his team and overall longevity standing.
So for longevity, Kyrie receives a 7.
Last but certainly not least, impact. The impact formula consists of 3 components: power, relatability, and quantity of individuals one is able to affect. The final attribute utilized to assess greatness within the GOAT decoded criteria is impact. Let us begin with Kyrie's impact off the court. Considering the aforementioned controversies surrounding Irving, his outside-of-the-box perspectives are demonstrative of his power. One of his most notable quotes, stated during a post-game interview, continues to make its rounds on various social media platforms, predicated on the principle of staying faithful to who you are.
You can continue to ask other people around me about what they think about me and continue to write about mood swings. Like, human beings have mood swings. Like, you go home and you're not happy with things, or you're mad at something and you're happy. That's a mood swing. It's okay to be human. Like, I don't have to be perfect for anyone here, nor do I have to be perfect for the public. So I'm not here to dispel any perception. I'm just here to be myself.
Moving on to Irving's impact on the game of basketball. His physical relatability, combined with his immense work ethic, showcases the possibility of being a top 75 player ever in the NBA without the need for a large stature. Kyrie will forever be known as an artistic attacker of the rim that can score over giants with a jumper arsenal ranging from anywhere on the court. The guy is one of the most complete offensive players ever. And with there only being so many small guards left in the league, young athletes have no choice but to respect and admire the sheer bucket that Kyrie Irving is.
For impact, Kyrie receives an 8.
And now it is time for us to add all the components of greatness together to ascertain Kyrie Irving's overall score. Drum roll, please. Kyrie Irving is an overall 91 based on the GOAT Decoded criteria for greatness. Stay tuned for more episodes of GOAT Decoded to see how Kyrie compares against other GOATs from a multitude of different disciplines. Let us continue to study greatness together and become students in a class of maximizing human potential and achievement.